Hello and welcome back to Fear the Waves Inside the Waves show. I'm here in person with the Burrows Report himself, John Burrows. John, how you doing?
It's good to be back in New Orleans. Good to be back recording here with you. Excited to be doing this in person. I had a great time in Madrid, but there's no place like New Orleans, greatest city in the world, if you ask me.
Definitely the greatest city in this country, that's for sure. And I know a lot of recruits think the same thing, John, because how many recruits have you been seeing at practices?
A ton, and there's going to be a lot at the spring game too. Just got confirmation that one more will be there. Pretty big tackle that the staff is heavily pursuing, so it should be quite the show.
Awesome. I heard there's too many to count. And if you go to tomorrow's spring game at 10 a.m. Central Time in Yulman Stadium, free to get into, then you'll see for yourself just how many recruits want to come and play for Tulane football under John Sumrall and this entire coaching staff. So we're going to get into that game. But first, I want to just preview what the scoring is going to look like for fans who are going to the game. Touchdown, 6 points. Field goal, 3 points. After touchdown, you can take an extra point. You can do a 3-yard conversion, which is worth 2 points. Or you can do a 10-yard conversion, which is worth 4 extra points. So you could get 10 points on one score. You could get the 6 points for the touchdown, and then you can score 4 points for a 10-yard conversion. And then on defense, a turnover is worth 6 points. So the defense is really going to be looking to score tomorrow. And then a 3-and-out is worth 3 points, and a forced punt is worth 1 point. So if the defense holds their ground, they can win this spring game tomorrow. Big battle between the offense and the defense. Do you have a prediction for who's going to win?
Honestly, I like the scoring is so obscure compared to what I'm used to in normal football. I think the defense right now is ahead of the offense in terms of which unit has looked better so far this spring. But with this scoring system implemented, I have no idea who it favors.
I'll have to run my model tonight. We've got no precedent on this type of scoring. I don't have a great data set, but why do you think the defense is ahead of the offense right now?
I think the O-line lacks a little continuity right now. We definitely have the players. The left side of the line is returning, which is good. But, a defensive job is to create chaos, whereas the offense has to be a lot more connected in order to make things happen up front. We have a lot more depth at defensive line right now than arguably any position on the team. They've looked really good. So I think it started up there.
I think that's a good take. I would probably agree with that from what I've seen, but I've been really, really excited from what I see from the wideouts, which we'll get into a little bit more, but both wide receiver and tight end, those skill position groups, as well as running back, a little bit harder to evaluate right now in practices before we get to a real game. But the offense, definitely a lot farther ahead than I thought it would be by now, especially considering we had this QB battle with Donovan Leary and Caden Samansa going at it and really battling for that QB1 position. And then we had QB's transition as well. We had QB3 and 4, Kellen Taspy, Ty Thompson at tight end, and Taspy at wide receiver, who looks awesome. We'll see later on in the show if you agree with that opinion of mine. So let's dive into our questions. We posted on Twitter that we were going to be fielding questions, and we are going to deliver on answering your questions. So the first one I have is from Patrick Harkness, and it's, who are the most improved players and what fun moments do we have from spring camp?
Well, all of spring camp is fun. It's football. It's been too long. But we declined this call from my mother really quickly so I can get back to my notes. Apologies, Mom. I love you. You raised me. But we're talking about Tulane's most improved players. And, of course, you got to give the people what they want here. I know a name that I've heard a lot from the coaching staff, and I've noticed during my time at practices as well, is Gerard Henderson. G has been someone that's taken a huge step from last year. So I'll just give you a list. I mean, at this age, there's so much development that happens that there's always going to be a ton of improved players from year to year. But he comes to mind first. Bryce Bohannon has stepped up at receiver. Shaz Preston looks healthy. which is a big step up from last season where he was not. He looks phenomenal. Jaheim Joker Johnson and Kevin Adams are both guys that have improved too. But overall, everyone who's in year 2 or year 3 with the program has taken a big step pretty much.
That's great news, John. We're excited to see it on the field tomorrow and next season. Let's dive into some of those players a little bit more, because that is such an important part of the offseason is the improvement. And I think that fans really want to hear about those specific improvements. Gerard Henderson was somebody who was talked a lot about over the summer, and we went and saw it, and I was like, whoa, he's taking reps with the first team on this stacked D-line. I thought this was our deepest group last year. You said it's our deepest group again this year, even though they lost almost all the defensive tackles and some edge rushers, and Deshaun Baptiste just went to the portal as well. But maybe that's because this group is so deep. And while Gerard is somebody who improved last summer and is improving now, at the running back position, Jamari McClure to me was the standout of the summer. And I think after looking at yesterday's practice, a standout to me was Javin Gordon. Same thing. We've got a freshman running back standing out. So not necessarily the same player like G, but on the other side of the ball at that position, we're getting a young player who's just continuing to develop, or in this case, a position group. So the coaching staff's really getting it done there. Shaz Preston, obviously really, really important to have him back. As you said, we all know that he had a lot of hype coming in, and that was deserved. He was a top 20 player, according to ESPN, in the high school recruiting rankings, and we've seen flashes of him being a dominant player out on the practice field. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I talked a little bit about this in my Burrows report. If you're not subscribed to the Fear the Wave Collective newsletter, highly recommend it. It's a great way to support Tulane athletics and also get a little bit more inside information than maybe what we'll give here. But we'll still give a good tidbit here because it's the spring game. We have to. But last season, one of the bigger issues with the offense was receiver. And I know that we had good receivers. Obviously, Mario Williams had 1,000 yards. He's going to go to the NFL. Dante Fleming is meeting with NFL teams right now. But really, you like to have a little more versatility at receiver. You like to have the speed threat, the guy who can take the top off the defense, and that was going to be Mario Williams from the beginning last year. But then Shaz Preston was going to be the guy on the other side that could make contested catches and kind of be a security blanket for our quarterback. And with his injury, we had to play Dante Fleming instead, who's a great receiver, but kind of his natural position is the same as what Mario Williams was. So getting Shaz Preston back is huge. Another way we addressed that need in order to get a bigger bodied receiver was by moving Kellen Tasby to receiver, former quarterback, which we talked about just a little bit, who's been given the nickname Wemby. I can't release every video from practice, but you've seen some of them. He's looked natural. He's never played receiver before, so everything he's doing is off pure instinct. So he needs to learn how to run routes a little more technically, but he's got the natural instinct, and he can win some contested balls too.
Yeah, it's not just what you're seeing on Twitter. Obviously, those clips are really exciting, and that's why the fans are thinking Tasby might actually work out, or are wondering, asking us, is Tasby going to work out? But you've seen it. It's not just the big plays over the top.
Well, it's fun too, so much so that at practices, while they're running red zone or while they're running 2-minute drill, you have coaches or people involved with the program not directly involved with play calling on the sideline yelling to throw a jump ball to Tasby, just because that's how much fun it is.
6'4" quarterback turned wide receiver, and he's still a freshman because he's finishing his freshman year right now. He'll be a sophomore next year, but he's really going to be a redshirt freshman. So,
and he's 6'6", not 6'4".
4 years potentially of Tasby at wide receiver, and he's not the only 6'3", 6'4" player at wideout. We've got Antoine Parham and Sean Nicholas as well, another 6'4" player who we saw a little bit last season but was really developing. And as he gets into his second season with Tulane, we really think that we'll see some improvement there. So going back to some of our questions we
got a ton of questions. Let's get through these.
From the audience, we've got a question from the Uptown Update, and he's wondering if Trent Dilfer still wants to smooch Coach Sumrall, and is the feeling mutual?
Well, you would have to ask them. I would assume not on Sumrall's end, but I'm not going to answer questions for him. I guess I haven't talked to Trent Dilfer. I have talked to Sumrall, but not about this. So Sorry, Uptown Update. You'll have to ask that one yourself in person if you make it to the spring game, which I'm sure you will. Big event. I'm sure Coach Summerall would love nothing more than to spend his time answering questions about that.
Free football at a college level. Pretty
It's free. It's
exciting opportunity. Which position are you most excited about on either end of the ball?
Yeah, well, this question actually came from Brandon Popper, someone you might know. I will for offense. I'm really excited about running back because I know we lost Mekhi Hughes to Oregon, wishing him nothing but the best. Great player, great guy. But I would say overall, top to bottom, our running back room as a whole this year is improved from last year. You talked about Jamari McClure. I still think he's the best running back on the team. He hasn't played a ton of football in his life. He started in like 10th grade or something like that. So like pretty recently. So what the staff was saying was that last year he would flash, but he would do things like blow a blocking assignment or something just because he hadn't had as much experience with football yet. But he's cut those mistakes out this spring. He's gotten a lot more mature, I guess you could say. And, he still is one of the most explosive football players I've seen. So I'm super high on him. I'll talk more about the rest of the running backs later. I think he's going to be the second string. I think someone else will start. So we'll get on that later. But the whole room's really, really good. On defense, I'm excited about. We talked about D-line, so I won't just say D-line again, although I could. I'm going to say safeties. Jack Chenchu, Bailey Despainey goes by Slim, and Kevin Adams are three guys who are starter caliber right there. So we have depth there too, which is nice. And Kevin Adams and Slim are both experienced, and Jack is just a firecracker. So that'll be a fun room to watch.
That should be no surprise to anybody. Kevin Adams played heavy minutes down the stretch last season, played over half the game in the Gasparilla Bowl, played heavy minutes in the conference championship. Slim and Bailey Despainey and Jack Chienzo also played a lot last season. Jack Chienzo, again, playing starter minutes down the stretch last season. And it's funny because last season, I felt like the player we were talking about for the future the most was Jamari McClure. Between the two of us, both of us were on that one. And defensively, you were all over Jack Chienzo. You said this guy is starter material, and he didn't quite start, but he was playing a heavy dose of snaps.
By the end of the season.
That's only because we continue to start a senior ahead of him. But get ready for Jack Chienzo. Tackles like he's the biggest player on the field, and he's one of the smallest.
I'll say the one knock I have on Jack Chienzo, if I'm really like being picky here, is he needs to practice against another team because he's lighting people up in practice, and it's fun to watch, but I would much rather see him hit a Northwestern player than a Tulane player, and I definitely wouldn't want to get hit by him.
I remember I was getting upset last season when I saw him continue to intercept our players. I'm like, oh gosh, we're gonna have an offense.
You'll see him like just barrel down at a dude who has no idea he's there, and so he'll let up so he doesn't like kill him like you're supposed to when you're in practice with your own team. And you still hear the sound of the pop throughout the whole stadium after he's let up. I'm excited to watch him hit someone else.
And then last thing about the running back position, the blocking is normal to pick up later. We saw this with Mekhi Hughes, who was in his second year of college as the redshirt freshman, and he missed that block in Ole Miss that ended up Michael Pratt ended up getting hit to the ground. And there were other times as well. No, it was Michael. No, sorry, not Ole Miss. Season opener.
South Alabama.
Thank you. South Alabama. Sorry, excuse me. He missed a block in the game, and he ended up playing well and getting 10 carries for about 40 yards in that game, which was as good as any running back in week one before taking over the job. But missing blocks is something that's common early on, and I have no doubt that we're going to be fine without Mekhi Hughes next season, but good luck to him and his brother over at Oregon. Which position groups do you see as the biggest opportunities for improvement, John?
Yeah, well, you could take improvement to mean a couple of things. It could mean a player developing or, something clicking between now and when the season starts. Or obviously in this era of college football, the transfer portal is the quickest way to fix a problem or a numbers issue. I would not be surprised if the staff took another quarterback in the portal, just to add to the competition and make the numbers work a little bit better. There's a couple guys I know they're interested in there, but I'm going to let that play out before we say anything on that. The two names that I have heard are names that I think Tulane fans would be excited about. Not Nico. That was never a thing.
Yeah, what happened to
that?
Is he at Canes right now? On South Claiborne or on South Carrollton?
When you post really big names with links to really big schools like Tulane, it gets really big clicks. I'll say that. But there was no contact made between our staff and Nico's camp. Wishing him nothing but the best. And everybody involved with the situation, but Tulane was not involved. Definitely was fun to see the Tulane logo a little more online, but there's nothing there. But I think we will add a quarterback, not Nico, but we'll add a quarterback. I think we will also add a receiver and probably a corner. But the team's pretty good.
Awesome. Maybe 2 receivers, or you don't think that's in the cards?
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, you don't want to take a guy just to take a guy. We'll also definitely add a punter, but that'll probably be just a scholarship.
I would imagine we'd add a punter, considering that William Hudlow is the only punter on the roster. So whether it's a walk-on or a scholarship player, I think that we need a backup in case he gets hurt, or maybe someone to give him some competition. After Will Carroll went into the transfer portal, Ethan Greenberg, not with the team anymore after graduating. How about let's talk about who's supporting that quarterback, because we don't necessarily know who it is yet, and we've got some good options already on the roster. But do you have a prediction for who's going to start offensive line?
I do. I'll give you my starting offensive line. I believe the couch coach asked a little bit about O-line in addition to some other positions that we've touched on a little bit. But I'll give you O-line now. Shadre and Derek are back. I see them as being the starters.
Shadre Hurst, Derek Graham.
Right. As long as there's no injuries there, that's pretty solidified in my opinion. At center, I think Jack probably starts. John Bach at guard, and then Darian Reed at right tackle. But I'd say that those 3 positions aren't as solidified as the returners.
Awesome. I've been very high on Darian Reed for a long time. I thought he played some good snaps in not so important situations last season, and the opportunity he was given. I liked what I saw in practice. So excited about that. And then John Bach, obviously a big pickup in the portal. Do you think this team will be better than last year's team?
There were 2 questions that were similar to each other. One of them was that is this Tulane team going to be better than last season? If you can find who asked the questions, we can give a little shout out. But and then someone else asked, is this team good enough right now to win the ACC and AAC? Excuse me. And the easy answer to that is no, because it's April 18th, and they're not supposed to be. But I would say that they're not just on pace, but ahead of pace in order to be in that position again next year. Luckily, we don't have to go play anyone right now. I'm sure everybody else is thinking the same thing. Luckily, they don't have to play us right now. But this team is ahead of schedule, and they will be very competitive come fall.
Watch out for Duke and Darian Mensah.
That might be the most exciting game in school history.
I don't know about that, but we've got a great history, John. But I think that it will be the most anticipated game in Yeoman Stadium history. I mean, we've got a lot of
That's fair.
We have ranked on ranked matchups back in the day.
Well, we have ranked on ranked matchups at Yeoman Stadium from our time here.
Tulane Ole Miss was ranked on ranked, correct?
UCF was ranked when we played them both times.
That is also true. Yeah.
But regular season, we've got
top 10 when the rankings didn't even go.
It'll be a big game. Yeoman will be. I mean, it might even be a hostile environment, which I'm not sure I've ever seen before. So that'll be exciting. I think
we saw it for sure for Ole Miss.
I'd say we saw a packed and competitive environment, but I won't get too into it.
I think the Ole Miss fans brought the hostility in that one.
Maybe there's a little extra, a little lagniappe, if you will. In this game against Duke that should make all parties excited. I mean, that's what it's all about. It should be great football.
Yeah. So if they have a quarterback that we're familiar with, I believe we have a running back, right? Sort of.
Oh, thought we just lost internet.
Jav Gordon, maybe. Well, let's talk about the running back room. Do you think Javon Gordon could emerge even though he's a freshman, or do you see somebody like Arnold Barnes, a veteran, or McClure taking the spot?
Well, Arnold Barnes has been out most of the spring with injuries, so I don't know what he looks like right now, really compared to last year. But I would say that my guess for starter, I still personally think McClure is the best running back on the team. Other guy who's right there with him, who I think will start, is Maurice Turner. He's a Louisville transfer, home run speed. He's a phenomenal player too. It's a great room. He was actually the starter at Louisville before he got injured. So, that's worked out really well for us, and I hope it works out really well for him too. But it's a loaded room. Gordon is my offensive true freshman of camp. Oliver Mitchell's been great at receiver too, but Gordon to me is the McClure or the Sean Nicholas of last year, this year. Someone asked who, if I can find it,
L.R. Hubbard,
the dark horse candidate question at running back. I don't think he's going to start this year, but if I had to pick a dark horse, it'd be Gordon, true freshman from, I believe, Georgia. Am I getting that right? I wrote it down. But I can't find it now. But number 23, keep an eye on him this spring game. He knows how to lower his pads.
Do you think the defense and chemistry outlook is ahead of where it was last year, behind, or at the same spot at this point in time?
Right now, the offense is behind where the offense was this time last year, and the defense is ahead of where the defense was this time last year. So do with that what you will. I think we're in a good position once we get a couple things addressed that both will be ahead.
How's the kicking game right now?
Good. The kicking game is good. I've seen one missed kick all spring. Punting, obviously, we have
just
to address we have to address that position in the portal likely. But specialty, I mean, it's different when you're kicking in an empty stadium during practice versus, come fall when you're at Ole Miss kicking and you got 50,000 fans screaming at you. But it's been as good as it could have looked up to this point.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, Patrick Durkins has looked rock solid when we've seen him out there in practice. I really struggled with that hip injury last year. Last question from the audience here is about the special teams coach, Jonathan Galante.
Yeah, I talked to Summerall a little bit about this. He actually came highly recommended from a number of other college coaches right now who, I'm not going to say any names, but multiple people who are or will be college football Hall of Famers when it's all said and done. So he was really highly recommended to Summerall. Punt's going to be very similar to what it was. It's punt. Field goal's a little different, but it's pretty similar. Kick return, it's going to be similar in some ways, different in others. But punt block and punt return are going to be mostly the same. But we went from having a really good special teams coordinator, I think, to still having a really good special teams coordinator.
Awesome. Well, John, this has been a lot of fun to get back. I hope you all enjoyed our analysis and breakdown of the spring game. We already gave you our prediction. Hard to evaluate with the scoring.
I predicted.
But would you say defense or offense?
See, now you're going to have me make a prediction, and then I'm going to be rooting
you like
for
the
someone.
Score predictions.
I know. Well, it's different when I'm predicting us versus them, but it's hard emotionally predicting us versus us.
Score prediction? How about that? You don't have to say.
I have no idea. I have no idea how a point
All right,
works.
Well, how about this?
I'll pick someone just
either side of the game.
I'll pick an MVP for each.
Yeah.
How about that? Is that what?
Yeah.
I think defensive MVP is going to be Jack Chinchu.
Okay.
He loves the moment. Offensive, stuck between a couple guys. Not going to pick a quarterback because I'm not going to do that.
I'll take Donovan Leary here.
You'll take Donovan Leary? Well, then I'll take
You'll
Caden.
Take Samantha?
And,
all right,
yeah, how
so
about
then
that?
We'll go with that.
But other than that, I'll say Jamari McClure is going to have a home run play.
I like that.
Come say hi at the spring game if you see us. We're, love to talk football. It'll be a great time. It starts at 10, but the gates open, I believe, for fans at 9:30. So, if you have kids, or that you want to bring, or you want to, the players are, from last year, they interacted with fans a lot during that time, signed some autographs, asked some questions, take some pictures. It's a great time. Football's back. Don't miss out. You don't want to miss on some beautiful weather with football.
Wave are back. All right, John, roll wave.
Roll wave.